In the crisp early hours of a late autumn morning, as the golden light of dawn crept through my window, I discovered an unexpected relic nestled in the worn depths of my bag, a receipt for a weekend getaway package, its faded ink a silent testimony to plans once made and then abandoned. It was as if time had folded over itself, leaving behind this tangible token of dreams deferred. My heart pounded with a curious mixture of nostalgia and regret, each word on that paper echoing with promises of escape, adventure, and a love story that might have been. I clutched the receipt close, wondering how something so small could hold the power to unravel an entire chapter of my past, a chapter filled with hopes, heartache, and the bittersweet memory of an unrevealed horizon. I still remember the day I bought that package as clearly as if it were yesterday. It was a chance encounter with possibility, a spontaneous decision fueled by a moment of rebellion against the mundane routines that had suffocated me for far too long. I had been sitting in a cramped, familiar office, daydreaming of distant beaches and quiet mountain retreats, when a glossy flyer had caught my eye. The offer was irresistible, a weekend escape, all expenses paid, promising not just a break from reality but a journey into self-discovery. The excitement bubbled up inside me, a surge of adrenaline that made me believe for a moment that anything was possible. I scribbled my name on the order form with trembling fingers, sealing that fleeting promise of freedom. The weekend never came. Life, with its relentless demands and unexpected twists, had other plans. My partner, who had once shared in my wild ambition, grew increasingly distant as the pressures of work and daily responsibilities took over. The planned getaway remained a ghost in the back of my mind, a spark that flickered briefly before being smothered by the weight of routine and obligation. Over time, the receipt became a forgotten relic, tucked away in the chaos of everyday life. I never returned to that website, never called the number on the flyer, and eventually, the thought of escaping seemed like a distant fantasy too dangerous to entertain. Yet, on that cold morning, as I rifled through my bag looking for my wallet, the receipt reappeared as if summoned by fate. The paper, creased at the edges and marked by the passage of time, brought a flood of memories rushing back in vivid detail. I remembered the warmth of a sunlit cafe where I had excitedly shared my plans with a friend, the taste of freshly brewed coffee mingling with dreams of sandy shores and starry skies. I recalled the look of wonder in my own eyes, the feeling that I was on the brink of something life-changing. That receipt was more than a simple piece of paper, it was a symbol of a time when I dared to believe in magic, when the possibility of transformation was not just a distant hope but a tangible, reachable destination. As I sat at my small kitchen table, the receipt spread out before me like a map of lost opportunities, I began to reflect on the years that had passed since I had first held that promise in my hand. I had built a life that was safe and predictable, a steady job, a modest apartment, and a relationship that had grown comfortable, if not entirely fulfilling. I had learned to bury the restless yearning for something more, convincing myself that stability was worth the sacrifice of spontaneity. Yet, the memory of that planned getaway still stirred something deep within me, a whisper of the wild, unrestrained passion I had once known. I decided to take a walk, a solitary journey through the winding streets of my neighborhood that evening, the receipt clutched tightly in my hand. As I stepped out into the cool embrace of dusk, the city transformed around me. The familiar sidewalks, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights, became corridors of memory, each step stirring echoes of that long-forgotten ambition. I recalled the moment I had booked the getaway online, the thrill of clicking confirm, and imagining the endless possibilities that lay ahead. I remembered how, for a fleeting moment, I had felt truly alive, a feeling that now seemed both distant and achingly familiar. The city was quieter than usual, its usual clamor softened by the gentle hum of nighttime. I wandered without a clear destination, my mind racing with thoughts of what might have been. Every corner I turned, every shadow that danced on the pavement, seemed to whisper secrets of missed chances and unfulfilled dreams. The receipt was like a beacon in the darkness, guiding me back to a time when I had dared to hope for more than the predictable cycle of work and home. It made me question the choices I had made, the times I had turned away from adventure, the moments I had let fear dictate my decisions. As I walked, memories surfaced unbidden, the exhilarating call of freedom during a summer vacation years ago, the laughter of friends on impromptu road trips, the thrill of spontaneous decisions that had led to unforgettable experiences. I recalled a time when a burst of courage had carried me to a beach at midnight, the sound of crashing waves mingling with my uncontainable joy. Those were the moments that defined me before I succumbed to the pressures of conformity, before I let practicality silence the call of my restless heart. The receipt, with its faded details and stark reminder of a nearly forgotten promise, brought those memories rushing back in an overwhelming torrent of emotion. In the solitude of that evening walk, I began to understand that the receipt was more than a symbol of a missed trip, it was a mirror reflecting the parts of myself I had long neglected. It was a reminder that beneath the layers of routine and responsibility, there still existed a yearning for exploration, for a life lived fully and without regret. I found myself questioning how I had come to accept the comfortable mediocrity of my existence, how I had allowed the vibrant, impulsive spirit of my youth to be subdued by the relentless march of time. Was it truly too late to reclaim that part of me, to once again embrace the possibility of adventure and change? As I returned home, the receipt still clutched in my hand, I sat down at my desk and began to write. At first, the words were hesitant, mere scribbles on a notepad, but soon they flowed into a cascade of memories and emotions. I wrote about the excitement of booking that weekend getaway, about the flutter of anticipation that had filled me with hope. I wrote about the gradual erosion of that hope as life's responsibilities piled up, about the resignation that had come with each passing day. My pen danced across the paper, each stroke a confession of lost dreams and a tribute to the resilient spark of possibility that still burned within me. In those solitary hours, I realized that the receipt was a call to action, a gentle prod urging me to break free from the chains of routine and embrace the uncertainty of life. It was a reminder that even though the trip had never been taken, the possibility of a new beginning was still there, waiting to be seized. I recalled the exhilaration of past adventures, the sense of liberation that came from stepping into the unknown. I wondered if it wasn't time to reclaim that part of myself, to dare once more to dream, to plan, and perhaps even to take a leap of faith. The more I wrote, the more the past and present began to intertwine in a tapestry of emotions. I thought of the relationship I had nurtured over the years, a relationship that, while stable and comforting, had gradually lost the spark of passion and spontaneity that once defined it. I wondered if I had settled too easily, if I had allowed the pursuit of security to overshadow the pursuit of happiness. The receipt, a small and seemingly insignificant artifact, had unearthed questions I had long buried. What did I truly desire? What was the cost of sacrificing passion for predictability? And most importantly, was it possible to reclaim the spirit of adventure that I had once so vividly embodied? As the night deepened, I found myself sitting by the window, the city lights twinkling like distant stars against the inky backdrop of the sky. I held the receipt up to the soft glow of the lamp, its edges trembling in my grasp as if it were alive with the memories of 1,000 unspoken promises. I knew that the journey I was about to embark on was not one that could be measured in miles or marked by a destination on a map. It was a journey into the recesses of my own heart, a quest to rediscover the parts of myself that had been hidden away by time and circumstance. I spent the early hours of that night reflecting on the moments that had led me to this crossroads. I recalled the fervent discussions with friends about chasing dreams, the shared laughter and the wild plans sketched out on napkins in the back of crowded cafes. I remembered the countless nights spent under open skies, where every star was a silent witness to the promises we made to ourselves, to live boldly, to love fiercely, to never let the mundane quench the flames of our inner desires. Those memories, vivid and poignant, contrasted sharply with the quiet resignation that had crept into my everyday life. The receipt, with its modest invitation to a weekend getaway, had become a catalyst for introspection. I began to realize that the unrevealed trip was not merely a missed opportunity, it was a symbol of my own hesitance to embrace the unpredictable beauty of life. Over the years, I had allowed fear and uncertainty to dictate my choices, opting for the safe harbor of familiarity over the tumultuous seas of possibility. I had built a life that was predictable and orderly, a life that, while comfortable, left little room for the wild, untamed impulses that once defined me. In that quiet moment, I made a promise to myself, to honor the spirit of that long-forgotten getaway, to break free from the confines of routine, and to seek out the adventures that would awaken my soul once more. The days that followed were filled with a restless energy. I found myself revisiting old journals and photo albums, each page and each snapshot a reminder of the life I had once dreamed of living. I recalled the thrill of booking spontaneous trips, the exhilaration of boarding a train with no set destination, and the simple joy of losing myself in the beauty of a new place. I began to see that the receipt was not a relic of a past life, but a beacon lighting the way forward. It urged me to confront the lingering regrets of what might have been and to reclaim the passion I had long suppressed. At work, I noticed a subtle shift in my demeanor. The mundane tasks that once felt like a punishment now carried a hint of anticipation, as if every email and every meeting was a reminder that life was brimming with hidden possibilities. I started to infuse my daily routines with small acts of rebellion, a new route home, a spontaneous lunch break at a nearby park, even a late-night drive with no destination in mind. These small gestures were a way of breaking free from the shackles of a life that had grown too predictable, a way of daring to imagine that there was more to my existence than the quiet repetition of day after day. Every evening, I would return home and gently unfold the crumpled receipt, running my fingers over its faded letters and imagining the world that lay just beyond the horizon of my current life. I began to plan, in secret and with cautious optimism, little escapes from the monotony. I made lists of places I had always wanted to visit, researched destinations with the fervor of someone who had been asleep for too long, and even reconnected with old friends who still carried the spirit of adventure. The receipt was my reminder that life was meant to be lived in full, that the path to self-discovery was paved with risks and unpredictable detours. Late one night, as I sat alone on my balcony watching the city's neon glow reflect off the quiet river below, I allowed myself to dream openly once more. I imagined booking another getaway, this time, not just as an impulsive escape, but as a deliberate act of reclaiming the parts of me that had been neglected for so long. I envisioned a weekend filled with long hikes through sun-dappled forests, quiet conversations under starry skies, and the unspoken promise of rediscovering the joy of being truly alive. The idea filled me with a warmth that contrasted with the cool night air, a tangible hope that maybe, just maybe, I could still find my way back to the person I used to be. That night, with the receipt safely tucked in my pocket, I made a silent vow to myself. I would not let this reminder of an untrivial trip be a symbol of regret forever. Instead, it would be the spark that ignited a new chapter in my life, a chapter of bold decisions, heartfelt explorations, and the relentless pursuit of passion. I would no longer allow the pressures of routine to silence the vibrant, adventurous spirit that still beat within me. I was ready to reclaim my narrative, to write my own story of courage and discovery. Now, as I sit here and pen down these reflections, the receipt lies open on my desk, a gateway to memories, regrets, and the promise of tomorrow. The journey of self-discovery is long and winding, filled with both joy and sorrow, triumph and defeat. But I have come to understand that every missed opportunity, every untraveled road, is not a mark of failure but a stepping stone towards a deeper understanding of who we are. The receipt for that forgotten getaway is not just a remnant of a plan that never materialized. It is a symbol of resilience, a quiet reminder that even in the midst of life's predictable routines, the call of adventure never truly fades away. I invite you, dear reader, to join me in this exploration, a journey that transcends the boundaries of the ordinary and reaches into the realm of possibility. Let us embrace the untraveled horizons, the dreams deferred, and the quiet hope that lies in every forgotten promise. For within each of us is a spark of adventure waiting to be rekindled, a yearning to break free from the confines of routine and to step boldly into the unknown. And so, as I close this chapter of my reflections for now, I stand at the edge of a new beginning, one where the receipt in my bag is no longer a relic of the past but a beacon lighting the way to the uncharted future I am ready to explore. In the restless haze of a sleepless night, I found myself staring at the ceiling, the receipt still clutched in my trembling hand. Every fiber of my being pulsed with the memory of what could have been, a weekend escape that never came to pass. That tiny scrap of paper, creased and ink faded by time, had transformed from a forgotten token into a symbol of every deferred dream and every whispered hope I had once harbored. It was as if fate had placed it there to jolt me awake from a life of safe routine, demanding that I confront the sacrifices I'd made. I could no longer ignore the yearning for adventure, the need to break free from the invisible chains that had bound me to mediocrity. For weeks after that fateful morning, the receipt haunted me like a persistent echo of a distant promise. I began to question every decision I had ever made, the long hours at a job that drained me, the comfortable yet stifling relationship that numbed my once vibrant spirit, and the endless cycle of obligations that left no room for spontaneity. My mind wandered back to the day I had impulsively booked the getaway. I remembered the rush of excitement as I clicked confirm on the website, the warm assurance that for one weekend I could escape the humdrum of everyday life and immerse myself in a world of possibility. That surge of liberation was real, and yet, in the aftermath, I had allowed fear and responsibility to slowly erase it. As I sat by my desk in the quiet pre-dawn hours, I decided to give voice to these emotions. I retrieved an old journal from a dusty shelf, the one I had kept during my younger, more daring days, and began to write furiously. I scribbled down memories of impromptu trips taken on a whim, nights spent laughing under a canopy of stars, and the bittersweet taste of freedom that had once been my constant companion. The words poured out, raw and unfiltered, as if I were speaking to a long-lost friend. With each line, I felt the heaviness in my chest lighten, and the receipt transformed from a symbol of regret into a catalyst for renewal. That morning marked the beginning of my personal revolution. I decided to face the remnants of my past head-on rather than allow them to haunt me in silence. I spent hours poring over old photographs and mementos, piecing together a timeline of my most cherished adventures. I remembered the time I had taken a spontaneous road trip with a close friend, the wind in my hair and the promise of a new horizon beckoning in every mile. I recalled nights spent dancing at festivals, where every beat of the music spoke of limitless possibility and every laugh was a rebellion against the mundane. I realized then that I had once been fearless, a woman who embraced the unknown with open arms and a heart full of wonder. Yet, life had its own way of dimming that light. Responsibilities piled up, relationships became comfortable but predictable, and I gradually lost sight of that once fiery spirit. The receipt was my wake-up call, a tangible reminder that I had traded the vibrancy of my dreams for the safety of a well-ordered existence. I began to resent the monotonous rhythm that had replaced my wild heartbeat, and the thought of it made me shudder. I craved the exhilarating uncertainty of a new adventure, the simple joy of stepping into the unknown without a care for the consequences. One chilly evening, as the city slumbered under a blanket of fog, I decided to take a daring step. I reached out to an old friend, Maya, whose life had always been a kaleidoscope of adventure and spontaneity. We met at a quaint, dimly lit bar where the soft murmur of jazz mingled with the clinking of glasses. Over steaming cups of spiced chai, I confided in her about the receipt and the silent agony it had stirred within me. Maya's eyes sparkled with an unmistakable mix of empathy and excitement, as if she too had once carried the weight of unfulfilled dreams. "Why not do it now?" she urged, her voice low and insistent. "Why not plan a getaway for just the two of us? No obligations, no expectations, just a chance to see if that spark is still alive." Her words, simple and daring, kindled a fire deep within me. The idea of reclaiming a piece of my past, of venturing into uncharted territory with someone who understood the language of forgotten dreams, was irresistible. We spent hours brainstorming ideas, mapping out potential destinations, and laughing over shared memories of youthful escapades. In that moment, the receipt ceased to be a relic of regret. It became a beacon of possibility, urging me to embrace the thrill of a new beginning. Over the next several days, Maya and I worked feverishly to orchestrate our impromptu escape. We combed through travel blogs, scoured social media for hidden gems, and made tentative plans that bordered on the whimsical. Every detail was an act of rebellion against the stagnation that had defined my recent years. I found myself rekindling the excitement I'd long thought lost, my heart beating in sync with every new possibility that unfolded before me. I remember the night before our departure vividly. I sat on the edge of my bed, receipt in hand, and stared out at the city lights flickering like distant memories. The air was heavy with anticipation and the promise of change. I allowed myself a moment of vulnerability, tears glistening in the soft lamplight, as I whispered a quiet farewell to the old me, a version of myself that had once been content with the comfort of routine. I promised that when I returned, I would carry this newfound zest for life into every facet of my existence. The day of our departure arrived with a mix of nerves and exhilaration. The early morning air was crisp and invigorating, and as I zipped up my bag, I felt a surge of adrenaline. I no longer carried the weight of regret, instead, I bore the lightness of hope. The receipt, now carefully preserved in a small envelope, was tucked away as a cherished reminder of how far I'd come. Maya and I set off with no fixed itinerary, just the open road and the unspoken promise of rediscovery. Our journey led us along winding country roads flanked by ancient trees whose branches whispered tales of forgotten eras. We made impromptu stops at roadside diners where locals greeted us with warm smiles and stories of the region's hidden treasures. Each moment was a refreshing antidote to the rigid monotony that had defined my recent days. We explored abandoned barns repurposed as art studios, meandered through sleepy villages where time seemed to stand still, and found solace in quiet corners of nature that offered nothing more than the serenity of unspoiled beauty. At one particularly breathtaking overlook, where the landscape stretched out in a patchwork of emerald fields and cerulean skies, I sat on the hood of our rented car and let the world in. In that vast, open space, every worry melted away, replaced by a deep, resonant understanding that I was exactly where I needed to be. The receipt's ghost no longer haunted me. Instead, it had given birth to a new chapter, a journey that was as much about reconnecting with the world as it was about rediscovering my own soul. As days turned into a blissful blur of discovery, conversations with strangers, and the joyful spontaneity of travel, I began to reflect on the nature of missed opportunities. I realized that every unrevealed path, every deferred dream, was not an indictment of my choices but a marker of the person I once was and the person I was becoming. The getaway I had never taken was a pivotal moment in my life, a crossroads where I had chosen security over spontaneity. But now, with Maya by my side and the world unfurling before us in all its unpredictable glory, I felt a deep sense of redemption. One afternoon, while resting in a quiet lakeside town, I wandered into a small, family-run bookstore that smelled of old paper and timeless stories. I spent hours there, lost in the narratives of others who had dared to follow their hearts, whose lives were a testament to the power of taking risks. I picked up a weathered novel filled with tales of adventure and wonder, and as I read, I felt as though the pages were echoing my own journey. The stories of daring escapades and passionate pursuits resonated deeply with me, affirming that it was never too late to rewrite one's destiny. That evening, as the sky blazed with hues of orange and purple during a breathtaking sunset, I found myself sitting on the bank of a gently rippling stream. The water, cool and reflective, seemed to mirror the transformation taking place within me. I closed my eyes and let the melody of nature fill my senses, the rustling of leaves, the distant call of a night bird, the soft murmur of the flowing water. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming gratitude for every twist and turn that had led me to this very point, a profound acceptance of my past and an unyielding hope for the future. Our journey continued with a series of serendipitous encounters that enriched every moment. We met a group of travelers at a bustling weekend market, each with their own stories of escape and self-discovery. Over cups of fragrant herbal tea, we exchanged anecdotes of daring adventures and heartaches, and I realized that I was not alone in my quest for renewal. There was an unspoken kinship among us, a shared recognition that life's true beauty lay not in the destination, but in the unpredictable, often messy journey that led us there. Back on the road, every mile traveled became a meditation on the passage of time and the resilience of the human spirit. I began to see that the life I had built was not a prison but a canvas, a tapestry woven from moments of boldness, regret, joy, and quiet introspection. I recalled the times I had ignored the call of adventure, the days when I had allowed fear to hold me captive in a life of complacency. Each memory was a lesson, a stepping stone on the path toward a fuller, richer existence. One particularly memorable night, as we camped beneath a canopy of stars in a secluded clearing, the world seemed to pause around us. The silence was profound, filled only by the crackle of a small bonfire and the occasional murmur of the wind. In that stillness, I confessed to Maya the deep-seated guilt and longing that had plagued me for years, the remorse for every moment I had surrendered to routine, every dream I had allowed to wither. Her response was gentle and compassionate. "We all have our receipts," she said softly, smiling through tears, reminders of the journeys we never took, but also proof that we still have the power to change our course. Her words reverberated in me long after the embers had faded. In the soft glow of the firelight, I vowed to embrace every opportunity, to never again let life slip by in silent resignation. That night, as the fire dwindled and the first hints of dawn painted the sky, I felt a stirring of hope, a belief that I could reclaim my destiny, that every small risk taken would build toward a future brimming with wonder. The remainder of our trip unfolded like a mosaic of vibrant memories. We explored ancient ruins hidden in overgrown forests, their crumbling walls whispering secrets of civilizations past. We danced in the rain at a lively local festival, our laughter merging with the rhythm of drums and the melody of traditional songs. We savored the taste of exotic foods prepared by local chefs, each bite an invitation to experience a world beyond our own. Every experience was a lesson in living boldly, in seizing the moments that once seemed so elusive. As our journey neared its end, I felt both a pang of melancholy and a surge of gratitude. The receipt, now long tucked away in my pocket, had served as a transformative reminder that even a missed opportunity can ignite the spark of renewal if one is brave enough to pursue it. I had rediscovered not only the thrill of adventure but also a deeper understanding of who I was, a woman capable of reinvention, of defying the expectations imposed by time and circumstance. Returning home was bittersweet. The familiar streets and routine responsibilities greeted me like old friends, yet I was irrevocably changed. The trip had awakened a dormant part of my soul, and I knew that the journey of self-discovery was far from over. I began to infuse my everyday life with the same spirit of spontaneity that had carried me through our getaway. I took day tours on my commute, explored hidden corners of the city, and even started planning small weekend escapes. Each step was a reaffirmation of the lessons learned on the open road, that life is meant to be lived boldly, that the pursuit of adventure is as essential as the air we breathe. In the months that followed, I found myself reflecting on the receipt as a turning point, a moment when I decided to reclaim the narrative of my life. I chronicled my experiences in a series of letters to my future self, detailed accounts of every spontaneous adventure, every unexpected encounter, every time I chose passion over predictability. Those letters became a testament to my journey, a reminder that even in the midst of life's chaos, there is beauty in the pursuit of one's dreams. I also began to share my story with others, through long, introspective blog posts and heartfelt conversations with friends who, like me, had once yearned for something more. I discovered that many of us carried our own receipts for unrevealed paths, tokens of dreams deferred but never entirely lost. In sharing my experience, I hope to inspire others to take a leap of faith, to dust off their own forgotten promises and let the winds of change guide them toward new horizons. Standing at the crossroads of memory and possibility, I now understand that life is not measured by the trips we take or the destinations we reach, but by the courage to pursue the unknown. The receipt for that long-abandoned weekend getaway is no longer a symbol of regret, it is a reminder of the resilient spirit that lies within us all. It speaks of the power to reinvent, to defy the confines of routine, and to embrace the unpredictable beauty of life. Now, as I sit at my favorite cafe, watching the world bustle by through rain-streaked windows, I smile at the thought of all the journey still waiting to be taken. I keep that receipt as a cherished talisman, a testament to the day I decided to break free and reclaim my destiny. Every day, I live with the quiet knowledge that the spirit of adventure is never truly lost, it merely waits for the moment when we dare to listen to its call. This is my story, a tale of missed opportunities turned into new beginnings, of unrevealed paths that led me to rediscover my true self, and of the enduring belief that life, in all its unpredictability, is meant to be lived with passion, courage, and an open heart. I invite you, dear reader, to seek out your own unrevealed horizons. Embrace the receipts that life hands you, for they are not mere reminders of what was lost, but keys to unlocking the vast potential of what can still be. As the day draws to a close and the soft glow of twilight blankets the city, I take one last look at the receipt, now more a symbol of hope than of regret, and whisper a silent promise to myself, to keep chasing the extraordinary, to never again let fear bind me to a life half-lived. And with that promise, I step into the unknown, ready to write the next chapter of my extraordinary journey. The journey continues, each step a testament to the courage of the heart and the endless pursuit of life's uncharted wonders.